man, one stand. Under God, we're supposed to be one nation, but yeah, we still face oppression and unequal rights and police brutality without even putting up a fight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the divided states and settlers, and to the republic for which it stands for privilege of race peddlers. Started as an operation to reduce Brit population under class subjugation to lords building a nation. In exchange, after a couple of years working the range, they would get land, cattle, and be free to be free agents. But when population dissipated, few attended plantations, upset the balance between the lords and the newly emancipated. So we drafted laws to try to recraft the terms in our favor, causing a class rebellion that left the upper class all shaken. Knowing we were outnumbered if underclass would ever rally, we divided them, giving whites a higher status, but barely. Punish whites and blacks that marry, impair blacks' rights severely. Blacks from the rights to carry, no land rights for the marry. Impoverished rights get home loans and the rights to vote, and political undertones kept it from under the microscope. Divide and conquer was enough to squash the coalition, but there was still less cheap labor for the agricultural system. That's when Portugal traders sprang an ingenious caper, kidnap African natives and auction them off as slave labor. After a century of rape, torture, and indoctrination, tried to unite states to Emancipation Proclamation. Of course, slave owners would proclaim that freeing those in chains would inflict on their basic rights of liberty to enslave.
One man, one stand. Under God, we're supposed to be one nation, but yeah, we still face oppression and unequal rights and police brutality without even putting up a fight. One man, one stand. Under God, we're supposed to be one nation, but yeah, we still face oppression and unequal rights and police brutality without even putting up a fight.
Oh, say, can you see? By the dawn's early clear, Confederacy under siege by Union blacks without fear. $1 billion slave industry evaporates in thin air. So former slave owners' coffers are in dire need of repair. We paid them $1 million each for the slaves that they lost, and for the free slaves, a mule and 30 acres to live off. Until a president overruled the slave concessions part, claiming a handout would just turn them dependent and soft. No one paying attention to the millions of white men we just propped up. Once deemed criminals, now pardoned Confederate generals got pulled political. So they lost the war but won the peace, both figurative and literal. We passed the 13th Amendment that made it illegal to have slaves, but added a clause that exempted the felon's case. So freed slaves waiting for a miracle got labeled vagrant. They got swept in the prison code, then bought by former masters to pay off whatever bail debt was owed. But since they couldn't read or write, they were swindled, same slave, different code. We opened the door to vote, but also gated it closed, imposing payment on test literacy attained for Negroes. When the black vote didn't slow, that's when the Klan payrolled, breeding fear through intimidation, and we still in that mode.
One man,
Damn.
one stand. Under God, we're supposed to be one nation, but yeah, we still face oppression and unequal rights and police brutality without even putting up a fight.
America, America, God shed His grace on thee, but that grace would never translate into racial harmony. Given all the slave owner rapes that spawned a mongrel breed, phenotypical traits dictate what life you will lead. If you were lighter than a paper bag, you mastered the economy. But if you were darker, you were relegated to basic poverty. Every part of daily life was based on this taxonomy, from different fountains to drink to different waters to pee. We claimed it was separate but equal to show post-racial posturing, but we siphoned black dollars to boast of our white properties. Our approach got the attention of the German regime, hell-bent on eugenics to making the entire race clean. This wasn't globally how we really wanted to be seen, so after a few peaceful marches and a volatile scene, we disguised white-only signs, race idolatry. But this fostered resentment in whites, and they began to flee. From the residents and projects built to staff them during industries, we give them lower rate loans to build their home communities. If a black infiltrates, there'll be a mob right down the street. We drew red lines around the place where black persons meet, making it impossible to get federal loans for mortgages on the street, resulting in government fund shortages and allowing poisonous plants to build fortresses. Led to cancer and disease for the less fortunate, but didn't know their pain was carcinogenic.
One man, one stand. Under God, we're supposed to be one nation, but yeah, we still face oppression and
projects and paid rebels with the profits, allowing me to declare war on the black poor as the target, mark it as a war on drugs to hide the racial context, militarize the police to attack the alarming threat. It created laws to imprison blacks for the drugs they possessed. And once labeled convict, when they're finally released, you'll be informed your citizen rights have now been decreased. When our economy exploited the need of blacks to own property, it created a Ponzi scheme, tore the world apart at the seams. Our first black president was elected, we neglected the white rage that resurrected, till Trump manifested one directive: white black progress right out of the public record. And that's exactly where we left it.